Waiters/waitresses of Reddit, what's the most awkward first date you had to witness firsthand? The guy starts talking about how nice it is in the modern day that you can just date without labels. Woman, in suspiciously chipper voice, responds that sometimes labels are really helpful in defining the boundaries of the relationship. Man, very upbeat, replies that sometimes it's nice just to enjoy your time with someone without having to define anything. It was so hard to listen to. Not a first date, but very awkward. Guy comes in with an escort and drops a good amount of money on booze at the bar. Then she leaves a few hours later, and he informs us that his wife is on her way to meet him for dinner and tips us an extra $200 to keep our mouths shut. Keeping it classy. Saw a guy hitting on a girl and buying her drinks for the entire night, then realizing she was a hooker.
I sadly put a waiter through the awkwardness. I mean, it was kinda hilarious. I went on a date with another dude. Except I didn't know it was a date. The entire thing was funny. I just thought he wanted to get wings and beers after our basketball game. Anyways, the thing is, the waiter came over right at the point where we started joking about it and heard some weird negotiation like, him, "You're saying you won't suck my dick even if I pay for your meal?" And me replying, in jest, "Well, maybe, if I can order the steak."
There was guy who would use the place I worked at as his go-to. Every time it's a different girl and every time it ends with angry, he'd butter them up and brag about himself and talks about how he is such a gentleman for treating them to classy place, and as gratitude they should let him fuck them. Every time the date walks away and we have to deal with a horny asshole who tries to get either pity sex or pity dessert from the female staff. This one guy brought a junkie hooker to the restaurant and was trying to convince her that she was a sorority girl in another timeline or something.
I had these two people that were there on a first date. After the appetizers, this poor man got the shits and was going back and forth to the bathroom all night. There was only a few other people in the restaurant at the time, so it was noticeable, and they were chuckling every time he got up. I honestly felt so bad for the guy. Wasn't the waiter just a nearby patron with good hearing? They were just about done with dinner when she gets a call, tells the caller she isn't busy and makes plans to spend the night with another guy, all while lover boy sat across from her with his jaw on the floor.
I used to wait tables at a steakhouse. This guy used to come every weekend. Sometimes alone.
Sometimes with the lady. He skipped a few weeks and came back on a Sunday with a new lady. I get his table and when I see him I greet him, "Hey. Long time no see."
Quote, "The death stare from the woman almost killed us both. They didn't speak for the rest of the dinner.
And I didn't get a good tip that day." Not a first date, but a guy decided to propose to a stripper from Scores.
High-end joint in NYC. She was stunning.
Also in fine didding.
He gets on one knee and pops the question and she goes out loud, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
He got up and asked for the check. Worked in a 5-star restaurant and witnessed a blind date where the female was on her phone their entire time.
Not only was she not interested, but she ordered the surf and turf then Ubered home. Now that I think about it, waiters and waitresses are the ones that experience most awkward dates. I waited on a couple.
The woman was beautiful,
slightly drunk,
overly friendly and showing cleavage. When I came back with their order, cleavage was covered.
Woman was reserved.
Guy was angry but coping. Waiter was feeling awkward but glad the issue was addressed. A guy moaning and saying, "I'll have what I'm having," over and over. Not a waiter.
But a first date I had myself.
I met up with a guy from some other country.
Neither of us were native English speakers. And though I am fluent, I don't really speak food in English nor my native language.
The date was a pretty rough time to find out.
Our poor waiter had to try and explain what all the menu items were. She got a pretty big tip out of it. I did see the guy one time more.
That ended even more awkwardly. Lady comes in to get a table, says she's expecting a man and gives us a brief description.
He shows up about 10 minutes later and she starts saying she knew it. He looks very surprised and scared.
I took a drink order and when I get back they are gone.
The hostess fills me in that in my absence they had a heated but civil exchange. The man was married to the lady's cousin, also the lady was married.
Apparently they had been texting for a while after meeting via Craigslist personals.
I'm assuming the married but looking section.
Don't know if they hooked up in the end or just called the whole thing off. I worked as a barista at a coffee shop with a dishwashing sink that brought you face to face with
whoever was sitting at the coffee bar across from you. For some reason, so many people chose this spot for their first dates. So I would have to wash dishes and pretend I wasn't literally on the date with them.
One time a person I knew was on their first date with someone and chose that cursed seat across for
the dishwashing sink.
Because we knew each other.
We chatted a little bit and then, as if a partition raised between us, they began their date.
But I still had dishes to do.
So fucking uncomfortable. I bartend at a corporate sports bar where we have giant stupid novelty beer glasses as an option.
If I had a nickel for every time a guy ordered the giant beer to impress his date, I could fucking retire. Just get a pint, dude.
My wife and her BF.
Not exactly awkward for both people, but I once served a dude who came in with a date one night and
another girl a couple nights later. He certainly looked awkward the second time when I came over to take the order.
Felt extra bad for the second girl as she paid the whole bill. At the end of the dinner,
two couples on a double date dine and dash. I chased them down.
And the girls had no clue.
Their dates had told him they already paid. The girls ended paying.
The guys had no cash. Worked at a pub connected to a brewery in college.
Dude comes in with a stunning woman.
I mean, she's absolutely gorgeous.
Whole time they're sitting at the end of the bar.
And you can hear the guy talking about how he has a room for them next door at the hotel in downtown. So they decide to go to the brewery next door. Gonna pull a little dine and dash. They got over there and didn't realize we are on the same system. So he orders a couple of beers. And the bartender on the brewery side asks if he wants to add it to his tab.
He looks over confused and says, "What tab? I've never been here." She prints off the restaurant bill plus his brewery tab. It's like $80 or so. He just blankly stares at the poor bartender.
Flies off the handle.
The girl he was with ended up paying for it. They walked across the street and to the hotel. He has already invited her up. She stalls until her Uber gets there and then just dipped out. Kinda funny.
Kinda awkward.
But that's what you get for dine and dash. There was a lady in my section who was by herself.
She was just waiting. This lady was absolutely gorgeous and dressed to kill.
I ended up talking to her a bit since she was obviously bored. She was smart and seemed like she had a good sense of humor.
It turned out she was there to meet some guy on a blind date.
I was like, holy crap.
What kind of asshole would leave a woman like this waiting? Quote.
A complete douche as it turned out. The guy eventually rolled in looking like a crunchy bro. This was a fine dining restaurant. And acting as if he was just too cute.
Apparently the woman confronted him about his being late because he actually got on top of the
table and asked everyone in the restaurant if they thought she should forgive him or not.
Everyone ignored the guy. I think one guy said, "Get off that table, dude." They talked for a bit and then the guy went to the bathroom. I went up to the table and said, "You don't need to pay for your drinks or anything. If you want to leave, you can just leave." She said thanks, but she ended up going ahead with the date. They left my section and went somewhere else. Honestly, The thought that that guy actually got away with cringe-inducing stunt disappointed me.
I wanted her to ditch the guy so bad.
Not me.
My friend.
There was this young couple.
Said they were around 15 to 16.
The guy was going for a kiss with a full duck face, closed eyes and everything.
The girl looked disgusted and terrified in the same time. The best visual is the scene in X-Men where Quicksilver was saving everybody's asses and found that
couple on the roof. I don't know what movie exactly, but ya get me.
I work in a bar and two people on a Tinder show up. I didn't realize it was a Tinder date until the girl mentioned that it was because they seemed
comfortable with each other and were making out at the bar, but she was making it very clear that
they just met up through Tinder. Eventually the girl kept asking me if I would go with them after I
was done with the shift to party with them. I should have.
Not a waiter but a girl I met on a dating app a couple years back told me this guy, who she also met on said dating app, set a date at this weird unknown ghetto bar in our town, and while the place seemed bad,
the guy seemed cool, so she ended up going.
She gets there early and sits down at the table.
Guy isn't there yet.
She notices there are two other girls, also alone and on their phone, sitting separately.
As the time goes on,
more and more single girls start walking in and sitting alone.
At this point,
the guy is late by 15 minutes.
After 30 minutes,
she stands up and asks one of the girls,
"Sorry, are you waiting for Alex?" The girl surprisingly says yeah. Another one must have heard the conversation because she stood up and said, "Hey, I'm also waiting
for Alex."
Turns out Alex had managed to invite 12 girls at the same bar the same time. Clearly as a prank. They ended up all sitting together and chatting and having drinks. Apparently it was a great night and most of them kept in touch. 3
of them even went on vacation together in Europe. I'll always wonder if Alex, or whatever his real name was
there to notice it all,
or knows how his prank ended up turning. Edit.
Words can't write for shit.
Those Tinder dates that never show up, so the girl always has to leave after waiting for hours.
I'll share my most awkward first date from back in high school, which I still cringe about to this day.
I had a huge crush on this girl.
Thought she was really cool and I loved her art and I couldn't believe she said yes.
We went to Lincoln Park Zoo because it was free and we were just broke teenagers and we had a blast.
Afterwards we went to grab some food at this place before having to split off to go home.
Our trains were heading in the opposite directions and the entrances were across the street from each other. So I walked with her to her side to say goodbye.
I closed my eyes and awkwardly leaned in to give her a kiss goodbye. And she went in more for a hug. I ended up headbutting her in the face and her nose started bleeding. I was so embarrassed and didn't know what to say.
So I just asked, "Are you okay?" She replied, "I think so." Still not knowing what to do, I just said,
"Okay, bye,"
and then ran across the street to catch my train.
It was so painfully awkward and embarrassing.
I avoided her for weeks after that.
I used to work at a sushi restaurant in Anchorage, and there was a girl who would come about once every few weeks with a different guy.
Every single time. She ordered a herdabap, which is like a rice salad sashimi bowl.
And it was giant.
I've only ever seen a handful of people ever finish the entire thing in one sitting. She would finish the whole thing with chopsticks,
and always ask for a spoon towards the end. It was always fun watching the guys look stunned when she finished. One day she came with this dude that ordered what she did.
And when they both finished the bowl, they ordered another and split it.
Wish they had ended up together, but she came back with a different guy a couple weeks later.
Not a waiter. But my daughter and I were having dinner at a restaurant and the table next to us was a mom,
dad, and 2 daughters.
Maybe 10 and 12.
The parents took them out to dinner to tell them they were getting a divorce. I worked at Red Robin burger chain.
And this couple came in,
Sat down, and a short conversation seemed to reveal that she was vegan before they awkwardly got up and left. Was a server for about a decade.
One of my old co-workers would bring all his first dates to the fancy restaurant we worked at BC. He would always get his meals discounted as per the employee handbook. This started getting tricky when he started dating one of the other servers.
Watching her serve a handful of his first dates over the first few weeks of their relationship was
always an interesting time. I was the one on the first date.
Went to a bar with this guy. Our waitress came up and immediately recognized him.
Was super friendly.
Took our orders and left.
While she was gone, he told me they used to date. The rest of the night they openly flirted with each other.
There was no second date. I don't need them to remember that.
Guy was sitting at my bar waiting for girl to arrive, telling me about her, how nervous he was.
I tried to make the experience as good as I could for them.
She left her coat when all was said and done and ended up coming back in for another drink without
him.
I asked him where he was and she said, oh, we are just friends. He went home.
Sorry dude.
Still feel bad about that one.
The date I saw started off great.
I was playing in a band at a small club.
There were about 30 people in the club.
A couple who had been sitting close together in a corner booth disappeared together into one of the
bathrooms in between songs.
When it was quiet in the club,
the bartender yells, "They better not be in there fucking on my sink."
Quote. The whole place turns and stares at the bathroom door.
And as we're staring, the couple emerges, smiling at first, then they look around.
See everybody staring at them.
And their faces turn a deep color of shame. They quickly paid their bill and left. I worked in a buffet-style restaurant when I was 15 for a couple of years and saw some shit over
the years.
This one night,
we had this guy show up alone and he looked like he was there to meet someone based off how he was dressed and holding himself, and we all assumed we'd see someone come in 15 minutes later and sitting down with him. But 30 minutes passed and he was still alone with his drink and decided to get up to get a salad.
And after 45 minutes to an hour in total, he finally decides to just get up and get some food and eat. He seemed really nice and chatted with all of us working as he went through the buffet, and slowly we learnt throughout the night he was set up on a blind date and the girl just never showed. He stayed and ate his meal,
paid and tipped us well and left. Another time.
This was actually super fucking awkward cause I knew the couple from high school and was kinda
friends with them.
But anyways, they came in for a date night and all my co-workers automatically assumed it was a first for second date based off their body language, and it was not.
They had been dating for at least 2 years by that point, and I had to tell a few people that.
And IDK what kind of dynamics this relationship had. But it was awkward to say the least. They looked quiet the whole night and not very close or touchy.
Like some couple are on dates, and as they finished and went to pay, the guy wanted to cover the meal but she insisted it be separate. So after that everyone was confused on what kind of date night that was, including me.
I even awkwardly texted him after and asked if everything was okay, and he had to inform me that his
GF doesn't like it when he tries to be romantic for a date night and pay.
But he still felt obligated to try anyways.
So this is actually something I saw on hashtags on The Tonight Show. But it cracks me up every time I think about it. A couple was on a first date and the guy went to the bathroom. The girl texted her roommate who had been having an argument with her BF.
But she accidentally sent the text to her date. So he got a text message in the bathroom that said, "Are you okay?
I love you."
I was a third wheel once at a restaurant. I was with my two friends who were 13. They were dating and their parents let them go to a
restaurant. It. HTTPS. Restaurant. It.
Took a lot of persuading from my parents because they were fucking black after telling them that I was single and just going as a third wheel and some free food they allowed me to go. So we get to the restaurant, and everyone was like, AWEEBC. They were holding hands. The guy was on
his phone and the girl was looking feverish. IDK. Then their looks change like WTF. And I can feel the tension. We get to our seat and we order our food. They overhear giggling, and the
girl looks red as hell. The waiter was leaving, but as he left he must have caught a glimpse of something. And he looked so
shocked and disgusted. He didn't say anything and just left, so I was like, him, what's happening? I say I'm going to the restroom and go past the boyfriend. He was on the outside of the booth. The
girl was in the middle and was on the other end. The kid had his phone to his side with a vibrator app on it, and at this point the girl was
shaking. I was disgusted. You're only fucking 13.
I knew what was happening, and not only that, I look around and everyone can see this bro and him bunched up with them. I sit back down. He was like, that was short, and I was like, yay, we get our food. And they have the nerve to say, can I get some of yours? You can have some of min. No.
Quote.
I eat my popcorn shrimp. BC. I was on the kids menu. Wasted none. Went to the bathroom. Called my mother, told her everything, and she was like, WTF, so she sends the carsman to pick me up and take me back home. I come out the bathroom to wait at the booth. Girl moaning hysterically, and he overhear laughing so hard. Everyone was so weirded out by this, and waitresses and waiters came and are like, what's wrong? I never left so fast.
TLDR. I went to a restaurant as a 13-year with my friends, and they brought a vibrator to the restaurant and used it without me knowing.
Asterisk spelling. Asterisk. When the girl said to her date, maybe you two should be on the date. Quote.
Him and I.
Oh no honey. It's my job to be nice. Ha ha ha. A couple were shown to their table.
And the guy was on the phone the entire time. I normally wait until guests are off their phones to give my spiel.
The specials and such and take a drink order.
But he didn't show any sign of getting off the phone.
I take the order, which the guy just holds his hand over the phone.
Talks over his date. When I come back,
she attempts to order an app, our house specialty,
and he tries to say the portions are large enough without.
She orders the zucchini anyway.
I get the dinner order and bring out the app. At this point,
I hadn't been to the table when he hadn't been on the phone. While I was putting together the salad, the woman comes out to the lobby and asks to get her meal packed up.
She ended up paying her half of the bill and ducking out. She told me this was their first date and she was set up by a soon-to-be former friend.
Said she was going to be calling her friend as she walked out. When I brought a guy's meal to him, he asked where her dinner was and I told him what happened.
He really thought she was in the bathroom.